Alive is bringing you a series of special reports called We the People, highlighting important places and people in our history. Tonight, 21 Alive reporter Eddie Rex Siedler tells us the story of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Fort Wayne and the visionaries who brought it to life. Eddie.
Heather, one of the largest nonprofit organizations in the country, the Boys and Girls Clubs of America started with a single club back in 1860, but it wasn't until 1989 that Fort Wayne got its own branch.
I had a client that was a director of a Boys and Girls Club, and I asked him to take me to lunch, tell me about your club so I can make my report.
That's how Rudy Mahera first learned of Boys and Girls Clubs while living in Lafayette.
And Brad Bumgardner was the name of the executive director in Lafayette, and he says, you know, Fort Wayne is the largest city in the country without a boys club. And we've been trying for over 50 years to get a club in Fort Wayne. And I said, so?
The next thing he knew, Mahera found himself in Fort Wayne recruiting people to join the board, a task much easier than he anticipated.
All of a sudden, we had a core group of people that were interested, but we didn't have anybody with business experience.
So he went after one.
I'm driving down Calhoun Street and I see Tom Kelly Buick, so I pull in and do a cold call, walk into the dealership and said, I'd like to see Tom Kelly, and they sent me over to Marine. His executive assistant says, well, Tom is in here right now.
Rudy's a good salesman. You know, he came in one day, and I mean, this is like 35 years ago, and said, I want to help kids. At that time, it was the Boys Club.
Kelly joined the board of what was supposed to be the Boys Club of Fort Wayne, but at the time, through a separate organization, girls clubs were also popping up around the country.
The two organizations were talking about consolidating, and so they were very serious on having some type of an agreement to merge. And so when we incorporated, we were the very first Boys and Girls Club of America that was ever started.
About a year later, in 1990, the National Corporation officially changed its name to Boys and Girls Clubs of America.
That's part of our legacy as being ahead of the curve.
The Fort Wayne Club has grown to one of the largest in the country, serving around 500,000 kids since opening. Mahera largely credits that to Executive Director Joe Jordan, who joined 16 years ago.
When I walked in the door, it wasn't like it is now, quite frankly. And to be able to go back and galvanize the people who started it, like Tom and Rudy, their passion was still raving, right?
Jordan says he was personally inspired by the club's mission while attending a convention.
I saw Denzel Washington on stage talking about he would never be who he was if he didn't enter the door with Boys and Girls Club, right? And he inspired me to dream big. And I wanted to dream big because it really wasn't about me, it was about these kids and what they deserve.
And now, looking back at how far the club has come in the last 35 years.
And it was a God thing. It just didn't have, somebody just doesn't walk into town and it just falls together. It was something that was meant to be, and I was blessed to be the conduit to make it happen.
You know, a lot of things run their course, and guys like me get old, and you know, our friends get old and they stop helping, but that hasn't deterred this club one bit. I mean, the next generation stepping up.
We're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but man, these kids love being here and we love them being here.
And you can learn more about the Boys and Girls Clubs of Fort Wayne, including how to get your kids involved, right now on our website. Reporting in studio, Eddie Rex Siedler, 21 Alive News.